and grant us the tawfiq and the ability that we're able to continue into the last 10 days with the most amount of motivation and energy and strength. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. We continue with the hadith number 33 from the 40 hadith of attaining the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're still covering the chapter on those qualities that are most beloved to Allah and those qualities that are most hated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عن جابر بن عتيك أن نبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقول من الغيرة ما يحب الله ومنها ما يبغض الله فأما التي يحبها الله فالغيرة في الريبة وأما الغيرة التي يبغضها الله فالغيرة في غير الريبة وإن من الخيلاء ما يبغض الله ومنها ما يحبه الله ومنها ما يحب الله فأما الخيلاء التي يحب الله فاختيال الرجل نفسه عند القتال واختياله عند الصدقة وأما التي يبغض الله فاختياله في البغي رواه أبو إلى آخر الحديث رواه أبو داود. It has been narrated by Jabir ibn Atiq that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there is ghira. Now, ghira is not translated in English because, as our scholars say, ghira doesn't exist in the English language. SubhanAllah. Ghira is protectiveness, right? If there's, English doesn't have the correct terminology to describe ghira itself. But ghira is this protectiveness, this possessiveness that a person has, which is from the nature. It's not something that is, a bad quality all the time, but there's also times when ghira is necessary. It's actually very, very necessary. So there's a ghira that Allah loves, and there's a ghira that He detests, He hates. As for the ghira that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, it is the ghira regarding doubtful matters. As for that ghira which Allah detests, it is that ghira which is baseless. Right? So when it comes to the maharim of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to crossing the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to the doubtful things about the sharia, whether it's halal, whether it's haram, a person from their ghayra will stay away from this because you're not sure. When in doubt, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? دَعْ مَا يَرِيبُكْ إِلَى مَا لَا يَرِيبُكْ. Leave that which is doubtful for something that is certain. When you are in doubt whether this is halal or something that is sanctioned by the sharia, something that goes in line with the Quran and the Sunnah, something that goes in line with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commandments, right? And you're in doubt whether you are transgressing or not, this is the time when the ghayra should overpower someone, and a person should abstain from that. A person should abstain from it. This is the type of ghayra that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Why? Because where is this ghayra coming from? It is coming out of the deference and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't want to end up falling in something. You don't want to end up falling in something or doing something that might potentially anger your beloved, your Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, for example, if you have a parent or you have a spouse that you know that if you take a certain action that they might be upset with you. Or this could be, you're walking on eggshells now. Or you're doing something that could potentially be a disastrous situation. So you're not sure if this is going to end up good or bad. What do you do? Right? If you truly love that person and you don't want to disappoint and hurt that person, what do? Let me leave this altogether. Let me abandon it. Let me not do it. This is the type of ghira that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. However, there's another type of ghira that a person has, which is, there's no basis to it. Right? A person, subhanAllah, unfortunately, the worst form of that ghira is where these honor killings, so-called honor killings, take place. Right? So culturally, in some cultures, right, if the perceived honor of someone is, broken, how can my name be destroyed? How can my reputation be destroyed? How can, this type of, So a person has that type of ghira, which has no basis in the sharia. Just because your honor is broken doesn't mean that you can go and, wal'iyadu billah, take the life of your child. But there are people out there that do this. Right? There are people out there who will readily hurt their loved ones. They will show ghira at a place where ghira is not supposed to be shown. And they will have no ghira where there's supposed to be ghira. Right? When it comes to showing ghira, this is a place where we're supposed to show ghira towards our female family members, our wives, our mothers, our sisters, our aunts, we're supposed to show ghira for them. Right? Ghira is part of protecting them. It is part of we are more readily, ready to do what? To allow them to be exposed to the world. We are ready to expose our women folk to the world, a place where ghira is supposed to be shown. However, right, subhanAllah, if they end up doing something, right, which goes against our reputation or our name in the society, our perceived rank in society, then what happens? Then our ghira flares up. But this is not ghira. This in reality, this is coming out from the nafs. This is coming out from the nafs. This is something that is an evil quality. So this is the type of ghira that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves everything to be put in its place. Right? Inna Allah yuhibbu yad'a kulli shay. Allah loves that you put everything. Inna Allah kataba al-ihsana fi kulli shay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that you try your best to attain perfection in whatever you do. That everything is placed in its maqam, in its place. Also there is khuyala. Khuyala is haughtiness. Right? Khuyala is a person displays their bravery, almost to the point that it might seem like it's arrogance, but it's actually not arrogance. Right? Yes, if the intention behind this display is that a person has arrogance in their heart, then this is arrogance. But if the intention is correct, it is actually bravery. It is actually bravery. So there is khuyala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and one that He hates. As for the one that He loves, it is the haughtiness which is shown on the battlefield against the enemy. So you show your bravery, your courage, your strength in order to display your strength, in order to show that the maqam and the position that you're coming from, which is that you are a mujahid fi sabilillah, you're on the battlefield, right? Your cause is just, your cause is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, right? At that time, you don't show any weakness, you show strength, right? You are resilient in the face of the enemy. This is the type of haughtiness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. The other type of haughtiness is against at the time of giving sadaqah. MashaAllah, many of you showed that. You raise your hands, you at the time of giving charity, you pluck up the courage to display your donation for the purposes so that other people can be motivated and encouraged. Right? So this is the type of courage, this is the type of khuyala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. One is on the battlefield, the other is when a person is giving money in charity. Why? Because giving money in charity at that time, insan by nature, we are stingy, we are bakhil. Right? We don't, it's for us, especially when it's hard-earned money, right? A person, it goes against the naf, it grinds against the naf when a person has to spend money. Especially giving to charity, where the perception is what? That I'm spending, I'm giving a donation, but I'm not getting anything material back. Whereas we know that that's not the reality. When you give something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to return it. But nevertheless, it is hard upon the nafs. But at that time, a person overcomes their nafs and a person shows courage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this kind of courage. Allah loves this kind of courage. And the type of haughtiness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala detests, it is haughtiness in oppression. Right? So a person has power over another person. You are a boss, you have an employee. You have, you're a parent and you have power over your children. you have, some position of authority, and in that position of authority, instead of being just and fair, you are not only oppressive towards your subordinates, but you're also arrogant and proud in doing so. Allahu Akbar. Right? Imagine what type of detestable person this person would be in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas we know the hadith when it comes to rahmah and displaying rahmah, Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhum ar-Rahman irhamu man fil ardi yarhamukum man fis sama. Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That those people that have mercy, right, upon the creation, the Rahman, the compassionate one, will have mercy upon them. Have mercy upon those that are on the earth. The being that is in the sky will have rahmah upon you. Right? So we're supposed to have rahmah, and instead of rahmah and mercy, we're doing the opposite. A person does the opposite, and not only that, they are proud about it. Right? It's like a person, any single toe out of line. Any single toe out of line. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? This, that. There's one thing that you want to maintain discipline, you want to be a good manager and all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean that micromanaging is, something that you're to be proud of. Micromanaging is not something that a person should be proud of. You shouldn't be displaying that, especially in oppression. A person, subhanAllah, goes to the level of abusing their spouse, physically abusing, mentally abusing, verbally abusing. And then the person is proud, I have just showed my manliness. Wal-'iyadhu billah. You just hit your spouse, and you're trying to show that you're a man. Is that how manliness is displayed? Right? This type of behavior, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completely hates it. Allah hates it. Right? And this person is far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, far away from attaining the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq and the ability that we're able to understand this and to attain the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives, and we're able to stay away from those actions which attract His displeasure and His hate. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me first and all of us the tawfiq and the ability to do this. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. أقول قولي هذا.